welcome. And I'm so excited to have two very seasoned and experienced leadership practitioners here with me today to discuss the book, Brains Inspiring Businesses. What is very exciting is that they have found very interesting ways to use the content in the book. And they are logging in from two very different parts of the world. So Emma and Helen, maybe you can tell us where you're logging in from.
Okay, so I'm joining from the southeast of England in the UK.
And I'm joining from the southwest of the UK.
So quite a different place from Nandini.
Yes. And I'm in Singapore. So this itself makes our conversation very interesting, that the book has traveled, literally is traveling to many parts of the world. But without taking up more time, I want to hand over to Emma. And Emma, please tell us about your chapter and how you've collaborated with Helen and how you have used the book.
Okay, so the chapter that I've written for the book is very much based around the heartland of how do we create trust and excitement as individuals, as teams, as leaders to help our organisations perform really well. And it's formed the kind of bedrock of a lot of the work I've done for more than 10 years. And so that's where my focus sits when I work. And I work a lot with Helen. And the thing that really kind of intrigued me was that once Helen had read the rest of the chapters, she started to use it in different ways with her existing clients, and it's been brilliant to kind of share that. So I'd love, Helen, for you to just tell us a bit about what you've done and how.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Nandini. Yes, so I can remember when you gave me the book and I took it away with me, and I was actually with my family. They were skiing and I wasn't. So I sat on the top of a very high mountain and read through, dipped in and out of each chapter, and found it amazing. I have strengths of ideation and strategic, and my ideation strengths really started to kick in to how we could use the different chapters, various chapters in some of the leadership work that I was doing. So fundamentally, I love the chapter you wrote, Emma, because that is what we do. And I believe every single leader should have a copy of the book to just tap into that chapter about, if we only understood, people perform better when they feel good about themselves. And as leaders, if we can help to create that trust and excitement and the psychological safety and everything that goes around that you've written, it can really be helpful. And then, as you say, I started to tip into the other chapters, and it started to make me think of a couple of leaders that I had got work coming up with. One had asked me to look at creating an entrepreneurial spirit in her team. And the other had asked me to work with helping during a change and a transition, the fear and anxiety that people were starting to feel. So those two chapters really resonated with me at that time, and it helped me then plan some of the activities I was going to run with the teams once I was with them.
Can you give us an insight then into what you did with them? I mean, obviously, as much as you can share from a confidentiality perspective, because it'd be great to see almost like some of the practicalities or some of the real specifics.
Yes, so the reawakening the brain bit. In fact, some of the stuff that we read about, we've been doing for years, Emma, and we knew it worked, but we didn't really know why. So the reawakening the entrepreneurial brain, it starts with the fundamentals that we've all got an entrepreneurial brain. If it's around starting something new, trying something different, then even as babies, we were all doing it. So it links to that. And so we've got it within all of us. And the first thing is to acknowledge that. So with the groups that I was working with was to acknowledge and have that conversation and just that dialogue, really. And then to start saying, and if we want to reawaken that brain, the chapter starts talking about, exposing the brain to new things, new sensory things. So new smells, new places, new experiences, and that starts to reawaken the brain, the entrepreneurial brain. And if you think about it, we've done this for years, off-sites that we've run for years. So with this particular group, we were off-site and we were trying new foods. We were trying new, we went to a new singer in the evening. We tried new music. You look at the work we do, we cycle together. We we walk in woods together, we camp by the side of a lake, we kayak across the lakes. So all of the stuff that we've been doing now has a real scientific, what you're starting to be able to tell us about what you know and what you're learning about the brain and the neuroscience is starting to tell us this is why it works. And therefore, I'm now introducing into all of the work that I do a lot more of this. Let's try something new, let's try something different, because it is going to help the brain think differently, innovate, create, deal with. It's going to help us in the way we work.
And what about the, because I know you've picked up on the others chapter as well. Is that one you can share a bit of sort of insight about as well?
Yes. And again, we've done some of this work without knowing it before. We get people working in pairs and small groups. So I love that chapter. I tell the story at the beginning about somebody being afraid of heights, trying to climb a tower and not making it and feeling really disappointed with themselves, going back and attempting it again and meeting someone halfway up, and still being scared of going the rest of the way. But when meeting the person who was also stuck, saying, come on, let's do this together. And suddenly they did. They made it together. And in the chapter talks about the switch that it makes in the neurochemicals in the brain when you're helping someone else. You know, why is that? Why does it force a change in the brain? It says help someone else. So again, now with the work with that particular group was getting them into pairs, into small support and challenge groups, help with a real focus on how do you help your colleague through this change, this transition, and seeing that shift. And then kind of relating it back to myself and realizing actually the work we do, you know, if I'm feeling fear and anxiety about a group or about doing anything, if I can get in and do some of this work that we do, I feel better too. I find myself performing much better.
Absolutely. I love hearing how you describe it because, like you say, it is at the heart of a lot of the things that we do, and knowing why helps us maybe stretch it a bit more. And I think that's some of the things that jump out from the book for me. It gives us that menu of, well, if I want to stretch this more, how can I? Or why can I rely on that particular thing? And that's why I find it's fascinating to hear how you're using it as well, because obviously we do a lot of work together, but in your individual work, you're kind of identifying where specific clients and specific situations can pull out of this menu, and I guess it makes it more engaging for people because they understand the why, or at least what we think we know is the reason behind it. Are you finding that makes a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the teams that I work with are have technical backgrounds or more scientific, technically kind of mindset. So to give them something which actually resonates with a bit of the studies and the science that you guys are finding out about, it helps make it less warm and fuzzy and more practical and real, and we understand the reason why. So it really helps me get quicker, faster into them accepting and working in these spaces.
Cool. Nandini, anything for you whilst you're listening to this?
Yes, and what really I liked, what I heard was that we have been doing this for years, but now I know why it works. And that is really the draw of the book, because that makes you kind of think, what more can I do with what I know? Because now that I know the hard science behind the soft skills, I can do more with it. And I think this is something I have got from a few other people as well. So thank you for sharing that, Helen. And Emma, thank you for your contribution to our book. And the two people whose chapters you mentioned, I must mention them. Leanne Drew McCain, who's in Australia, and Kristen, who is in Singapore, and she's a psychologist as well as a neuroscience fan. So this is our group, and thank you again, ladies, for coming and sharing. And yes, we hope to grow this body of knowledge more and more.